All right, today we are going to finish up section 5-6 with the quadratic formula and the discriminant, and we are going to focus on the actual quadratic formula. So remember, the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. Now we already focused on the discriminant. Okay, so all we have to do is plug in the extra b and the extra a and we can simplify. Okay, now we are not going to use the square root the way it's supposed to. We're going to keep it there and make sure we stick with actual nice looking numbers. All right, so let's get some practice in. So solve x squared minus 12x equals 28 using the quadratic formula. So obviously this needs to be set equal to 0, so I'm going to subtract 28 from both sides. So now I have x squared minus 12x minus 28 equals 0. So I'm just going to write the formula once again so we always have it. There we go, negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So, once again, we have a, b, and c. Now notice the a in front of x squared is actually 1. So this kind of makes it easy. So negative b, well, negative b would be a positive 12. So because I would actually write negative 12 plus minus the square root of b squared, so negative 12 squared minus 4 times a, which is just 1 in this case, times c, which is negative 28, extend my x bar, all over 2 times a, which is 1. So there we go. We have our quadratic formula set up. So now we just go through and simplify. So negative 12 would be 12 plus minus the square root of 144. Well, double negative right here makes it goes positive, so I will be adding. So 4 times 1 is just 4. 4 times 28, that would be 112. All over 2 times 1 is just 2. Okay, so now I'm going to simplify again. 144 plus 112 would be 256. Well, that's a nice perfect square. So I'm going to go down here and put my x equals in. So x equals 12 plus minus the square root. Oh, no. Sorry about that. The square root of 256, I was going to say, is 16 all over 2. So I can simplify this out. 12 plus 16 is 28. And that's divided by 2, which would give us 14. Or we could get 12 minus 16, which is negative 4 all over 2, which is negative 2. So my answers are x equals 14 or x equals 2. So it makes it a little bit slicker than having to foil or, reverse foil, factor, or graph or complete the square. This is a quick little method. Okay, just use this formula, have it memorized. So now I'm going to do it without writing everything out. So x squared equals 22x plus 121 equals 0. So negative b, so negative 22 plus minus the square root of 22 squared minus 4 times 1 times 121 all over 2 times 1. So we got to do a little work here. 22 squared. So 22 times 22, or do a little scratch work, 4, 4, 0, 4, 4. So I get 484. So negative 22 plus minus 484 4, oops, for my square root, minus, well, 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 1, 21, well, wait a minute, that's 484 also. So 4 times 1, 4 times 2, 4 times 1, all over 2. Well, once again, we see this as 0. Now, if we recall, when it's the discriminant is 0, that means we're only going to have one real solution. So this whole part, the plus minus the square root of 0, just goes away because it's the square root of 0 is 0. And so then it's just negative 22. So we have x equals negative 22 over 2, which gives us x must be equal to negative 11. So we have one real solution. Okay, let's do another one. X squared minus 4x equals negative 13. So once again, we got to add 13 to both sides, because we need to be equal to 0. So x squared minus 4x plus 13 is equal to 0. So here we go. X is equal to negative b. So negative 4 would be just 4 plus minus the square root of negative 4. Almost looks like an h, but I'm going to leave it. Squared minus 4 times 1 times 13. All over 2. So we have x is equal to 4 plus minus negative 4 squared is 16. Minus 4 times 13 would just give us 52 all over 2. So x is equal to 4 plus minus the square root of negative, do a little quick math, 36 all over 2. So now, going back a little bit, we got to remember, when we see that negative on the inside, we can pull that out and just say I square root of 36. Pull that negative out of the square root, and then the square root of 36 is just 6. So I actually have 6i. So x equals 4 plus minus 6i all over 2. So now, like we said, our discriminant was less than 0. So that tells us we're going to have a complex number or an imaginary number. And that's what we have. So doing a little bit more simplifying, 4 divided by 2 is 2. Plus minus 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I have 3i. So my roots are 2 plus minus 3i. And there we go. So here's just a quick summary of how to solve for quadratic equations. We could graph, we could factor, we could use the square root property, just solving using basic algebra. We could complete the square or the quadratic formula. The most efficient way is the quadratic formula because you can do it with anything. Factoring, square root property, and graphing, those are hit or miss depending on how useful they are. Completing the square is always, you can always use that because that is the quadratic formula actually comes from completing the square, but completing the square can always take a little bit more work. So when in doubt, use the quadratic formula and you'll always be safe.